Next we have logic apps. So again, logic apps, heard of them, used them, heard of them, used them. So, a few people. They're very handy little things. So again, a serverless component, they are no code and fairly sophisticated. We can do quite a bit with it. What people who use logic apps sometimes don't realize is that you can actually, with extensions, the Azure SDK and logic app extension, I can actually go in and edit logic apps in Visual Studio. So again, a logic app is basically hosted orchestration, hosted step sequencing engine, workflow engine that Microsoft hosts in Azure. Have you heard of Microsoft Flow? Flow is, we've got one person who's heard of Flow. Flow is basically a wrapper on top of Azure Logic Apps, and it's part of Office 365, and it is the replacement for SharePoint workflows. I bet you didn't think I was going to say SharePoint today. But it's the replacement for SharePoint workflows. So, again, what can be done here is pretty crazy. There's a number of actions that can be taken within a flow. And basically, I'm taking actions. This is, no code or very little code, and I'm sequencing actions together. So I perform an action. I get some data from it. I pass it on to the next action. There's a number of different things that I can do. On and on and on and on, and there's stuff happening. Things are added to this on a fairly regular basis. I'm going to close this guy. In my particular scenario here, what I'm doing is remember my topic. Hopefully you guys are still awake. A few minutes ago I talked about Azure Service Bus and topics. And I had a topic name of demo, and I created a subscription, which I call Demo Sub 2. But basically this logic app is going to use that second demo subscription that I created to pull messages off of that queue. So this logic app is getting triggered whenever a message shows up on that queue. It then passes the data into an HTTP call. Guess what that HTTP call does? Calls my function and does some incredibly sophisticated processing on that message. Does anybody know what it does? Gives it hello, puts a hello in front of it. It doesn't really matter, right? The point is powerful, right? I can sequence these things in logic apps, and the first moment where things start to get a little bit, this is a no-code environment, I can do some parameter substitution and concatenation, and there's some built-in functions. But if I feel like I want to write code, no problem, call out to an Azure function, right? And again, this is where that orchestration story starts to come into play. I'm then going to take that logic app, and I'm going to just put it back on the service bus. It could go anywhere. Put it back on the service bus, and I'm going to say, pass my request in and say that I've processed it, and so now I've got another message on the event queue, or the service bus, not on the queue. And this guy, it's in here somewhere, history. So if I run number 9 here, you may or may not be able to see that, but that's basically passing in location topic and location sub 1, which is just another topic that I've got. So it's now reading out messages that I put on that queue. Okay, so published the message, triggered in a logic app, did some processing on it, got the message back, and dropped it down into another queue. But there's lots of other things that could have been done here. Okay, send messages, receive messages, logic apps. There's a ton that can be explored here in the interest of time. I'm going to keep rolling, right? Skimming over the top. All good?